Hey guys, happy Sunday. Welcome to Uber Eats Hustle. This is David. I'm just going to record a short video here before I go out for my shift for the evening. So a while back, I made a video called 5 tips for big earnings with Uber Eats, and that was actually my most watched video ever. So it's very clear that followers of my channel want more of that content. So having done this mostly full time for the last year during the pandemic, I wanted to share with you guys a few more tips that I've picked up for getting the most out of your Uber Eats delivery time, because big earnings are the whole reason that we're all here. So with that said, today's video is going to be 5 more tips for big Uber Eats earnings. All right, let's jump right into it. Tip number 5 is going to be prepare for your shift. I actually did a whole video about this a while back. I will link it down in the comments, so feel free to check that out. Give it a like as well. Now, this seems like a super basic concept, but a little bit of forethought can actually save you some trouble and some time and ultimately make you some more money during the course of your shift. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it since I did an entire video about it already, but I'm talking about the super basics, guys, which means before you clock in for the day, make sure your car has gas, you have a car charger for your cell phone, and that you have a bottle of water and any additional snacks or drinks that you may need throughout the course of your shift. Yes, you may have to make additional stops to use the restroom, but really you can do this at restaurants where you're picking up deliveries, so you shouldn't have to make any extra pit stops for that unless it is a true emergency and the restaurant you're going to doesn't have a public restroom that you can use. I know it seems like common sense, but as we all know, common sense isn't always common. So just thinking about these couple of super basic things before you clock in for the day, especially if it's a time crunch day where there's a promotion going on, can really save you time and ultimately make you a little bit more money in the long run. Tip number 4 is going to be define your work zone. Now, this is one that I had to learn through experience. When I first started doing Uber Eats a while back, I used to treat it the same way that I treated UberX, which is I just went where the day took me. Wherever I got an order, that's where I went. Unless it was just a really bad order and I didn't feel like accepting it, I would decline it. But other than that, I just said, okay, if this order is going to take me 2 towns over, cool, let's do it. If it's going to take me 5 minutes away, let's do that. And when I was only doing Uber passenger drives with just a few deliveries mixed in, it wasn't a big deal, because with Uber passenger driving, you pick up somebody and you just go where you're going, and you just kind of accept as part of your day that you're going to end up in a far-flung place away from home, which isn't really a big deal because most of the day, surge pricing doesn't really come into effect. But with Uber Eats, it's a little bit of a different situation, because instead of picking up anywhere, you're picking up from restaurants. Ideally, you want to be working in places where there are a lot of restaurants, which means that you need to define some borders around whatever area you want to be working in. And that's what I mean by defining your work zone. So what does this look like in practice? Look at where you typically work, pick a northern, southern, eastern, and western borders for the area that you want to work in, and decide how far beyond those borders you're willing to take a delivery. Now, I wouldn't suggest picking up anywhere beyond those borders, because if you start turning on the app and picking up outside, who knows where you're going to end up. And then it's going to take you that much longer to drive back to your good zone where you make your money and you get a lot of orders. Having some boundaries on your work area is going to make it a lot easier to decide which trips you want to take and which ones you obviously need to turn down. Now, having these borders in place may mean that you turn down some trips that are normally financially acceptable or even good. You may get a trip that looks like it has a good tip on it, but if it's taking you so far outside of the area where you know you make your core money, and it's in the middle of a dinner rush or a lunch rush, and you know you're gonna have to drive all the way back after you complete that delivery, it's not worth it. And by setting some boundaries, like going, okay, I know that I'm not gonna pick up an order north of this street. I'm not gonna pick up an order west of this highway. That's gonna help you make those decisions and keep you in a smaller area where there are more orders, and ultimately you're going to make more money from it. Now, the other piece of defining your work zone is to know your zone inside and outside like the back of your hand. This is going to take experience. This isn't something that you're going to be able to master in your first week, or maybe even your first 3 or 4 weeks of doing Uber Eats. It's going to take some time if you're not that familiar with the busy restaurant-filled dense urban parts of your city, which is where I recommend working. I know me personally, I grew up in the suburbs. I have lived in the suburbs most of my life, other than a few years in my 20s. And so when I started doing delivery driving, I had to spend some time learning my way around. That meant that initially, I didn't make as much money as I was eventually going to make because I couldn't be as efficient with my deliveries as I would be once I learned all the ins and outs of the streets, going to different parts of the city, so that, if the app is suggesting I take one route, but I find that the road is closed down and the app doesn't know it, or if maybe traffic is a lot worse than the app realizes it is, I've got 5 other ways I can take to get wherever I want to go. The Uber GPS is pretty good, but it's not perfect. There's always times where that app is not going to know what's going on in real time in front of you. So knowing your zone well, knowing the routes and the roads is going to help you make efficient decisions on how to get from point A to point B. And that in aggregate is going to mean that you take home more earnings over the course of a week. And the other piece of knowing your zone is knowing where concentrations of high volume, high dollar restaurants are. Here in the Dallas market, for me, that's certain areas. That's Greenville Avenue, that's Uptown, Oak Lawn, and Park Cities. Those areas make one sort of big square, oddly shaped, but essentially a square. And I stay within that zone because I know it super, super well. And I know that there's a high concentration of money to be made there. So I suggest that you find out where that area is in your city, learn the little pockets of restaurants, and sort of learn what the shape of that area is. I guarantee you know your zone, it's going to pay off. Tip number 3, I find is sort of a controversial one. Communicate with your customer. Now, I know that there are some drivers who think that it's best to constantly text their customer every possible little update. Whenever they first get the order, they'll send them a huge paragraph. Hey, thank you so much for your Uber Eats delivery today. I'm your driver so-and-so. I'm gonna be taking care of you. If at any point you need anything else along the way, feel free to let me know, yada, yada, yada. I'm not gonna tell anybody else how to do their job, but to me, that is highly unnecessary. And as a customer, I would be irritated if I immediately got a huge wall of text, just somebody introducing themselves. That said, I do communicate with my customers, but I keep it super, super tight. I keep it friendly, professional, and concise. Most customers, I send 2 texts. So the first text I send happens right after I've picked up the order from the restaurant and gotten in my car. It says, "Hello, customer name. I have your order and I am headed to you now." You don't need to type a big introduction. They can see your name and your picture and your rating and whatever other information's in your profile on the app. They don't need you to type a big introduction to them. You also don't need to send them a text as soon as you've accepted the order. They know you've accepted the order. They get a notification that says a driver's working on their order now. That's not necessary, so I just send a brief one as a courtesy that says, "Hey, I've got your order, I'm on my way to you now." So in case they want to meet you outside, or if they have any special, instructions, gate codes, whatever, they can see that and go, "Oh, I better let the driver know before he gets here." If the order instructions say meet at door, then that text is the only one I send. There's not a reason for another one because you're going to interact with them personally. You don't need to send them a follow-up text. However, if the instructions say leave at door, I do send on that very last screen when you take the picture, I send a little note that says, "I just dropped your order off at your door," or with the concierge or wherever they wanted you to drop it off. It says, "I just dropped your order off at your door. Thanks and have a good night." That's all it takes. I have a high 90s rating. I think I have had 1 customer ever adjust a tip down after the delivery was over. My texts work fine. All it takes is professional, friendly, concise. That is all you need. Other than this, the only time I will ever text or call a customer is if there is some kind of a barrier to me getting their order to them. Let's say they live in an apartment building and I arrive and there's a lock on the door and I need a gate code to get in, but they didn't include a gate code. Then I'll go ahead and text the customer, "Hey, I'm at the door. What's the door code?" That's all it takes. You don't need to tell them your life story. You don't need to send them memes or a bunch of emojis or anything like that. Professional, friendly, concise. So speaking of professional and friendly, tip number 2 is be professional and friendly with everyone you interact with. I have seen some delivery drivers be so rude and so short with restaurant personnel. And as someone with an extensive career background in restaurants, specifically restaurant management, that is a huge turnoff. It really bugs me that that delivery driver treats my staff that way. And it's not going to incentivize anybody at those restaurants to want to treat you any better. And in addition to just being a good person and treating people with respect, being a friendly professional delivery driver can actually have real benefits that end up making you a little bit of money over the course of your shift. So if you consistently project a friendly professional image, ask people, hey, how's your day going? Say thank you and please, give them a big smile, all these things. And I'm not talking about being fake friendly. I'm talking about just being a decent, kind person when you interact with other people. Treating these restaurant staff and concierges in a friendly way will actually get them to recognize you when you come into the same restaurants and the same buildings again and again. And if you've left a good impression, they will look at you, they'll smile at you, they'll often assist you before other customers because they know that you are the friendly professional Uber Eats driver, and they're gonna say, hey, I know this guy, let me go ahead and get him his order real quick so I can focus on my other customers afterward. I've had it happen countless times. I can't tell you how many times I've had a bunch of delivery drivers in front of me who were all just standing there staring at their phones, waiting on an order. I walk in and either a manager or a bartender or a server will just see me and they'll go, hey, what's the name on your order? And I'll go, Steve. And they'll give me Steve's order and I'll say, thank you so much, have a good one. I'll be on my way. And they were happy to see me, I was happy to see them. It was a quick interaction. I'm out of there before all those other drivers. It really does happen. And all you gotta do is give people a smile, a friendly greeting, and a please and a thank you. That's all it takes. Not to mention that putting on a pleasant demeanor will actually improve your mood over the course of the day. I guess it's that old fake it till you make it adage, but it really is true. If you're having kind of a crummy day and you just make a conscious decision to smile at everyone and say please and thank you and hello, your mood is gonna improve a little bit. It's not gonna solve whatever problem you were upset about, but it is gonna improve your sour mood and your outlook a little bit. So just smile and be polite and friendly and courteous and professional. And our final tip for big earnings on Uber Eats today is be intelligent about promotions. Uber has started having these per trip promos where, let's say between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. if you run X trips, you get Y dollars as a bonus. And there's different tiers so that the more trips you complete in that time, the exponentially higher payout that you get. So when you have a promotion like this, it helps to really think about the number of trips that are required, how many per hour you find you can realistically complete over the course of that whole period the promo is running on. I don't know about you guys in your cities, but here in Dallas lately, our dinner promotions run from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And oftentimes the top tier is asking for 22 trips during that period of time. 22 trips broken down over 6 hours is almost 4 trips per hour. That's actually about 3.5 trips per hour broken down over the course of 6 hours. Some of which that's very possible, between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. when you're in that dinner time. It is doable as a stretch if you stay really busy, if there are constantly trips coming in, if you only accept trips that have very short delivery times, and if you don't make any pit stops at all for any reason. It's doable during those hours. But here in Dallas, business drops off a lot after 9 p.m. So that means that you can't maintain that momentum of 3.5 trips per hour over that entire 6-hour period. So that 22 trips, while possible, is highly, highly unlikely for the vast majority of drivers out there. So that said, if it's pretty close to impossible for you to complete the number of trips required for the top tier bonus, it can serve you much better to say, okay, I'm going to stay busy, I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna take trips with relatively short delivery times, but I'm not gonna focus only on short delivery times. Because let's say there's a difference of $40 between the top tier promo bonus and the second top tier promo bonus. And let's say there's a difference of about 4 trips. Now let's say you only have to complete 18 trips in 6 hours. That is 3 trips per hour, which is far more doable than 3.5 trips per hour over that same time period. As long as you work hard and you stay focused, you not only will qualify for the second highest tier bonus, so you'll still get a good chunk of bonus money, it just won't be the highest one, but now you can accept trips that have much higher payouts that maybe are a little bit longer on the trip time. So it's likely that you'll be able to make the same money, if not even more money, by just slowing down a little, still going for that second highest tier promo, but focusing on trips with better payouts. Chances are you're also gonna have a safer, less stressful shift because you're still going to be working, you're going to be busy, you're going to be making great money, but you're not going to be racing around trying to meet this highly unrealistic top tier trip goal. So try to think really hard about what the best way to work that particular night's promo is before you just say, okay, I'm going to take only the shortest trips, I'm going to race around, I'm going to do everything I can to hit this top tier promo. There are some times where the top tier is so much better and it is realistic that it's totally worth it to do it. And there are other times when the difference between the top tier and the second tier is not so big that it outweighs the increase in tips you would see by just being smarter about the trips that you took. So just make sure that you're being smart about working those promos and seeing to it that they actually work to meet your goals and needs rather than just instantly committing to that top tier. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this and felt like it was useful content, feel free to give me a like. And if you're not subscribed yet and you want more Uber Eats content like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.